During the rapid expansion of medieval Islamic caliphates, a complex and often harsh reality unfolded for the diverse populations that came under their rule. While this era is celebrated for its scientific and cultural achievements, the methods of conquest and governance had a profound and lasting impact on conquered peoples. Historical sources, including those by Arab chroniclers, document systematic practices that reshaped societies across the Middle East, North Africa, Europe, and Asia. Upon conquest, non-Muslim communities, primarily Christians and Jews, were typically incorporated into the state under a legal framework known as the dhimma. This system granted them the status of dhimma, or protected persons, which guaranteed their lives, property, and the freedom to practice their religion, in exchange for loyalty and the payment of a special poll tax called the jizya. The jizya was levied on able-bodied adult males and exempted them from the military service required of Muslims. The nature of this tax is a subject of historical debate. Some scholars view it as a practical continuation of earlier tax systems and a fee for state protection. Others emphasize its role as a symbol of subordination, with collection methods that could be humiliating to reinforce the second-class status of non-Muslims. The financial strain of the jizya varied significantly depending on the time and place, but in some instances it could be a considerable burden on families. Beyond the tax, Zimmi communities often faced a range of social and legal restrictions. These could include prohibitions on building new houses of worship, carrying weapons, and requirements to wear distinctive clothing. A unique institution within the Ottoman Empire was the devshirme, often translated as the child levy or blood tax. This system involved the forcible recruitment of young Christian boys, primarily from the Balkan provinces, to serve the state. Every few years, Ottoman officials would select boys, typically between the ages of 8 and 18, who were then taken to Istanbul, converted to Islam, and trained for military or administrative roles. This practice was designed to create a class of soldiers and officials who were loyal only to the Sultan, acting as a counterbalance to the influence of the Turkish nobility. The most elite of these recruits formed the Janissary Corps, the Sultan's formidable infantry. The devshirme was a source of deep trauma and resentment for many Christian families, and there are records of resistance against the levy. However, the system also offered a path to immense power and social mobility. Some of the most powerful figures in the Ottoman Empire, including Grand Viziers, rose from the ranks of the devshirme, leading some families, including Muslim ones, to try and volunteer their sons. The practice gradually declined in the 17th century. Slavery was a widespread institution in the medieval world, and the Islamic slave trade was extensive and long-lasting, drawing captives from Africa, Europe, and Central Asia. One of the distinguishing features of this trade was the systematic castration of a significant number of male slaves to serve as eunuchs. Eunuchs were highly valued as guards for harems and as trusted servants and officials in palaces, as they were deemed not to be a threat to the ruler's lineage. The procedure was incredibly dangerous, with a high mortality rate. Some accounts suggest that more boys died from the operation than survived. While the practice was profitable due to the high price of surviving eunuchs, it was deemed unlawful by some Islamic jurists. Both white and black slaves were made into eunuchs. One 10th century caliph's palace in Baghdad reportedly housed 7,000 black and 4,000 white eunuchs. The expansion of Islamic empires had a significant impact on the cultural and religious landscape of the conquered regions. In some instances, this involved the destruction or conversion of religious sites. Mahmud of Ghazna's campaigns in India in the 11th century were known for the plundering of wealthy Hindu temples, most famously the Somnath Temple. In other periods, rulers like the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim ordered the destruction of churches, including the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. During the conquest of major cities like Constantinople, a number of churches, including the Hagia Sophia, were converted into mosques, a practice common in the warfare of the era. However, claims of widespread, systematic cultural annihilation often require careful scrutiny. A persistent myth alleges that the Great Library of Alexandria was destroyed by Arab conquerors in the 7th century. Modern scholars, however, have largely debunked this story, showing that the library had likely ceased to exist in its grand form centuries before the arrival of Islam. A more lasting cultural shift was the process of Arabization. Arabic was established as the official language of the administration, gradually replacing Greek, Coptic, and Persian in official use. This was a slow process, and for centuries, the caliphates remained multilingual, continuing to use local languages in their bureaucracies. The adoption of Arabic was a key factor in shaping the cultural identity of the Middle East and North Africa over the long term.